Welcome to anyone joining us a couple minutes early. We will get started in just a few minutes. Thank you for your patience. Thank you to everyone who's joining us. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lindsay Creamer, and I'm the Global Director of Marketing here at Maureen Data Systems. We're so thrilled to have you with us today for our webinar, Ask the Experts, Flexibility with Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our three presenters today. Dave Rengen, Azure Architect, Christopher Olson, Solution Architect, and John Opel, Chief Technology Officer. And now I'm going to pass it on to John for the rest of the meeting.
Thanks, Lindsay. We appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for your time today. We're really looking forward to this time together, and hopefully you find it interesting and learn something new. We're here for your questions, of course. This webinar is a series that we do, Ask the Experts, and I've brought some experts with me today in tow to help us around the conversations. A little bit about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go into a bit of details on an Azure Virtual Desktop architecture, some of the newest features that have come out recently and things that Microsoft is still working on. We'll talk about some common use cases from a partner that's in the field implementing this and working with customers today. We'll do the same for Windows 365 architecture and common use cases, and then we'll discuss a little bit about the differences between AVD and Windows 365. We'll wrap up with questions along the way and additional questions at the end. And I did want to take a moment to just do a plug here at the end around our hybrid work offering. So with that, we're going to get started. So a lot of computing solutions in the market today. The client PC is definitely known as around the globe as the common way that people get work done. The PC workspace is what employees have the most familiarity with, right? Larger organizations. You also use traditional virtualization environments to help them scale and for application streaming. Other organizations have found value in desktop as a service. These solutions help businesses every day with their productivity needs, but they're not always suitable for every single scenario. Contractors, employees for hire, temp resources, and the like. Virtualization has been around for years, and it's been a game changer, but it also requires a deep expertise around the IT department to manage those environments. Desktop as a service is newer. It's a newer concept where many businesses are, and even the OEMs are now packaging a solution to help with desktop management across your estate. And a lot of organizations have adopted that model, but it has limited integration in some scenarios. Requires a lot of like a new provisioning workflow to get it out to your user population. And still some applications can be siloed and hard to publish. From this kind of learning, Microsoft has created this new category we call this hybrid personal computing. And it really comes through these solutions like AVD and Windows 365. There's a lot of great new things that we find that our customers are able to unlock through Azure Virtual Desktop and by extension the newer baby brother Windows 365. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave Rendon for a moment just to talk about the AVD's background, its capabilities, and the overall architecture. Dave.
Thank you, John. And this was a great introduction, and thank you for taking the time for attending this session. And as John mentioned earlier, part of this VDI and the need to have cloud PCs on demand, it's been a core challenge, right? We all know that on these times, remote working has been an imperative transition for most organizations in the past year, and has brought multiple challenges as well for people who used to work from a corporate offices like full-time, right? So enabling working from home is key to helping people stay connected across the organization, but also with partners and customers in this hybrid world. So that said, in my opinion, we can expect a future in which hybrid work is going to be the new standard. And this will be our core challenge now, right? We must prepare our infrastructure to allow personal and home devices access to our corporate networks. And we will see that Microsoft Azure provides the flexibility and controls to enable this integration securely. So in the following sections, we will be looking at some of the most relevant services that you can leverage to enable remote work with Azure Virtual Desktop or AVD and Windows 365, right? And if we start at looking at the Azure Virtual Desktop offering, this will basically help you enable hybrid work for your organization and will provide you with the flexibility needed to scale the infrastructure resources, right? And just bear in mind that whether your organization already has like Active Directory on premises or is just starting with Azure AD, it is possible to enable hybrid work through AVD or Azure Virtual Desktop, right? So, and also a quick tip in here, if you want to start testing AVD, I recommend you to take a look at the Getting Started feature to deploy Azure Virtual Desktop without the need of ADDS or Azure AD, right? Now, for those new to Azure Virtual Desktop, we can say that basically this is a desktop and application virtualization service that runs in the Azure cloud. right? So Azure Virtual Desktop, or AVD in short, is going to be like a born in the cloud managed platform on top of Azure, right? So this means that all of the infrastructure services like brokering, web access, load balancing components, management and monitoring, this is all set up for you as part of the control plane offering, right? And one of the key benefits of using ABD is that you will have access to all the new features available in Windows 10 and Windows 11, right? You will have a custom OS in here, and this is all going to be optimized for the sake of Office 365 services, right? Like and integrations like Outlook, OneDrive files, Teams, and so on. The best is that this is a consumption-based licensing, right? So we're gonna take a look at this later on. John, do you mind going to the next slide? Thank you. And before we take a deep dive on the AVD architecture, it is important to know the data flow, right? So usually organizations might have some applications running on premises, right? And we're gonna start on the left side on this slide, right? So you can see that the application endpoints are in the customer's on-premises network, right? And then we can extend connectivity to Azure using different services. It can be an express route, it can be a site-to-site connection, right? It depends on your profile. And then we can integrate Azure AD Connect to extend identity components. Now, I just highlighted in here the control plane, right? And the AVD control plane is going to handle the web access, the gateway, broker, diagnostics, and some additional components like REST APIs, right? So this will be your entry point to manage all the AVD components, right? Now, it is important in here to note that the customer is going to manage the ADDS and Azure AD, as well as all the infrastructure components, such as the starting with the subscription, of course, virtual networks, Azure files or NetApp files, right? And also the host pools and workspaces. So now let's take a quick deep dive on the most relevant components of the Azure Virtual Desktop architecture, right? And we will start with the control plane. And for those new to AVD, the term control plane is going to refer to the management of resources in your subscription or multiple subscriptions, right? So these activities includes the creation or updates and deletion of Azure resources as needed, right? And this means that Azure Resource Manager is going to handle the control plane requests and then apply all the restrictions that you specified through role-based access control or RBAC, right? Such as Azure policy as logs and logs, right? So I strongly recommend you to, leverage infrastructure as code to deploy these kind of environments. You can use ARM templates or now the Bicep language, which is a new domain-specific language to deploy Azure resources. Now, the next step is to talk about the host pools, right? And we highlighted in here, you can see we have two separate virtual networks. We have a hub VNet and then a spoke VNet, right? Now, host pools, just for you to know, these are a set of collection that might include one or more identical virtual machines, right? So we usually call them session hosts within your AVD environment, right? And each of these host pools can contain an application groups so that users can interact with them as they will do on a physical desktop, right? And here's an important, I will say, more like a relevant detail to notice between the personal and the pool desktops, right? So a personal desktop solution or persistent desktop is going to allow users to always connect to the same specific session host, right? And versus pool desktops, right? A pool desktop is going to be usually called like a non-persistent desktop. So this means that it will assign users to whichever session host is currently available, right? And this means that it depends on the load balancing algorithm, right? So because the users don't always return to the same session host each time they connect, then they will have limited ability to customize the desktop environment, right? And they usually don't have the admin or administrator access. Now, another key piece to note in here is the connectivity. As I mentioned earlier, we have a hub virtual network and also a spoke VNet, right? And AVD is going to provide you with the ability to extend your environment across multiple resources. Now, in the core, AVD is going to use the remote desktop protocol or RDP, to provide all the remote display and input capabilities, right? As you will do in RDS. Now, AVD is going to use reverse connect transport to establish the remote session and will carry the RDP traffic, right? So this is the main difference. And lastly, on the right side, you will see that we can extend the capabilities to manage the store profiles, right? So in this example, and you will see also in the official documentation for Microsoft, that you can leverage FS Logic's profile containers, right? As like a user profile solution. And for those new to AVD, FS Logics is going to be designed to run profiles in these sort of remote computing environments like AVD, right? So it's going to basically store a complete user profile in a single container. So when you sign in, a container is going to be dynamically attached to the computing environment using a VHD or a Hyper-V VHD, right? So VHDX if you prefer. And then the user profile is going to be immediately available and is going to appear in the system exactly like a native user profile, right? And I wanted to share with you some of the best practices when you work with AVD. So just bear in mind that the Azure Files Storage account must be in the same region as the session host VMs, right? Or as the host pools. And bear in mind that the files permissions must match the permission in the profile containers, right? And lastly here, and for optimal performance, the storage solution and the FS Logics profile container should be also in the same data location, right? Just a few tips in here. And now that we have gone through a quick look at the AVD architecture, I wanted to provide you with a few updates from the I will say the last 2 months from December 2021 and last month, right? You will see that now FS Logics 2201 is available in public preview. So I recommend you to take a look at it. And there's also a migration tool that is GA. This is basically a set of PowerShell commands that will help you to migrate metadata from AVD from a classic standpoint to ARM, right? Now you'll see also an increased capacity in the application group limits. Basically, per tenant, you can have now from 200 to 500, right? You'll see some additional updates, such as in the pricing calculator, to better manage the estimation of the environment. And you can also join VMs with FSLogic's profiles on Azure files.
Great, thanks, Dave. Really great information. And I just want to take a moment, just as a consultancy that speaks to customers every day around how AVD can be impactful for their organization. I really just wanted to go through a couple scenarios, right? There's a lot of organizations we speak to today, whether they have specific compliance requirements or their industry has unique use cases. We do speak to a lot of customers that are also looking to replace existing terminal services, believe it or not, even aging RDS servers. Sometimes customers that are replacing with other VDI solutions, right? One of the things that's unique to AVD is that Microsoft allows you to bring your own license, your own Windows license. Other solutions do not. So there's some cost savings sometimes. Obviously, companies looking and IT shops looking to centralize management and improve that overall operations. AVD really helps a lot of those organizations do that. The 1,000-pound gorilla here is certainly due to the pandemic, right? And thousands of businesses that are looking, and many really just responding to the need for remote work and rapid scale, right? AVD really provides that type of solution for businesses that traditionally didn't have any kind of VDI solution. I mentioned this earlier, AVD is a great solution for regulated industries. Many times it's for specific line of business applications where access to specific platforms or specific types of applications need to be run within that business infrastructure, right? Dave showed you before the architecture where you can essentially extend that AVD environment back into your on-premise directories. You could serve up those applications secure and have complete control and management of those platforms, and that really helps meet the need for healthcare, for financial services, and for government agencies that are looking for that rapid scale, but also the ability to control the environment and to keep it secure. AVD fits really well in businesses that have a lot of M&A type of strategy, mergers, acquisitions, and even divestitures. It's a quick way to potentially bifurcate your employee base, maybe if a part of the business was being sold, or if one business acquires another and you need to quickly get those employees into the parent company. AVD really does provide, again, a quick solution to provide endpoints and desktops and a state of essentially employee environments so that they can move quickly with a merger and acquisition. It's great for businesses that have a lot of short-term employees, businesses that have to scale up quickly during the holidays, for example. A lot of retail businesses need different endpoints at rapid scale. So there's a lot of need around that AVD can help with, as well as contractors. Contractors not only sitting inside of the same geographic region, but around the world, right? Giving access to contractors globally. And as businesses are growing, we're all becoming more and more global businesses out there. AVD has worked well in many scenarios with call centers, where again, the staffing was on demand and rapid, where they needed endpoints very quickly for those people to facilitate a call center and a help desk. And then really well in some customers that are taking advantage of a DevOps and software development life cycles in order to build and test in different environments, and in many cases a lot of UAT environments, and then to collapse and just reduce that infrastructure in an agile approach. So really works well again in a software development scenario. And really, what's the value here for virtualizing desktops? It's access anywhere around the world from any device, right? It's really facilitating an environment that is controlled by your business to give people what they need from any location. Really, we are now living in a remote work world, or what we call hybrid work world, and that will continue. That's going to remain in this day. And we see a lot of advantage for being able to tap into an employee base that maybe was only regionalized in the past, and now really extending that to really any region around the world. It's also very less costly than a full hardware refresh. So we have businesses that are not doing a hardware refresh and instead providing a virtual environment, an AVD environment, as an alternative, so they can prolong the life cycle of devices that they already have out in the wild. So it's an interesting thought to maybe push off that hardware refresh and new devices and facilitate a virtual environment instead. Secure workloads, as we spoke about before, is really a great value to many of our customers to be able to protect that data and protect the platforms and still serve it up in a secure manner. And then really just ease of management and rapid scale. When you think about what AVD can provide your business and being able to go quickly, AVD really allows you to do that beyond just going at it from the approach of just a regular another desktop deployment. So we're going to pause for a moment because we've covered a lot already so far, and wanted to make sure we took any questions that were related to the AVD section of the presentation. We're going to move to Windows 365 next. But Lindsay, do we have any questions that Dave or Chris can facilitate?
We do have a few in the queue. So guys, can we use on-premise authentication?
Chris or Dave, you're muted if you didn't hear the question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted. Yeah, as long as we can have this integration with AD Connect, that's right. And we're gonna deep dive in the next few slides on a comparison on how to leverage identity between AVD and Windows 365 as well, just to highlight the differences in here.
Great. Okay. The next one up here is MFA required for sign-in.
No, it's not a requirement.
But we do heavily recommend it.
Absolutely.
Right.
As a multi-factor authentication, we're always telling our clients from a secure perspective, MFA, having that MFA platform is really highly recommended.
All right, and the third one up here, how does Azure Virtual Desktop connect to on-premises servers and applications?
So again, this depends on how you extend your on-prem environment to Azure, right? So we can first establish a connectivity via express route or site to site, right? And then establish the connections as needed. Now, something I will highlight in here is also the ability that AVD provides you to leverage network virtual appliances to better control all the traffic, I mean inbound traffic and outbound connections as well.
Great. And then one more just popped up. Can we use Azure AD authentication like 100% cloud-based, no AD Connect, no local AD?
You can by utilizing. Oh, Dave, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chris.
I was saying with Active Directory domain services, you can make use of ATDS and have need for an on-prem solution there.
Great. All right. That is it for the questions in the queue at this time. Anybody else that has questions, feel free to place them in there. If we have time, we'll get to them at the end of the chat. Otherwise, we will reach out.
Yep, we're going to keep going here. We're going to toss it back over to Dave to talk about Windows 365 Business, and then we're going to cover Windows 365 Enterprise. If you didn't know, there's two different flavors of Win 365. There's a Business, really meant for smaller companies, and then a Windows 365 Enterprise. So Dave, over to you.
Sure, John, thank you. And as we mentioned earlier, overall on this session, we were gonna touch on AVD and Windows 365, right? And as John mentioned earlier, Windows 365 is gonna come in two different flavors. One is Windows 365 Business, and the second one is Windows 365 Enterprise. And you can think of Windows 365 overall as a cloud service that will enable you to automatically create a new type of Windows virtual machine or cloud PC for your end users, right? So each of these cloud PCs, it is going to be assigned to an individual user and is going to be their dedicated Windows device, right? So simply put, you can think of this service as a subscription service that lets you run your organization in the cloud, minimizing or reducing the need to manage infrastructure, right? And Microsoft is going to take care of the IT for you, managing devices and protecting against real-time world threats, right? So basically, this is going to be a cloud PC for each of your users in your organization, right? And one of the key benefits of using 365 Business is that you can provision and deploy in a matter of minutes, right? And you can also automate the updates of the OS. Now, just to highlight in here the difference, we are showing you and referring to the AVD architecture again, right? And this is mainly to provide you with a more visual comparison of what Microsoft is going to take care of you versus what you will manage on an AVD environment, right? So you can think of Windows 365 Business as, again, as a cloud PC on demand. So Microsoft is going to take off all the infrastructure components running in the cloud. So it's going to be like a turnkey solution for you. So you can decide whenever you need to spin up a new cloud PC for your user, right? And again, a benefit in here is that this is a subscription service, right? So you're going to scale as needed. Now, another key benefit of using Windows 365 is that you're going to be able to, tailor the compute and configurations, but also you can scale with per user pricing. Now, there are some limitations in here that we should be aware of. As John mentioned earlier, Windows 365 Business is meant primarily for smaller companies, I will say up to 300 users, right? Now, this means that there are some limitations with Windows 365 Business. There is no virtual network integration to your environment, and you will be limited in the way that you can customize images, right? And we're going to highlight these differences when in the next slide when we refer to the enterprise flavor. Can we go ahead, Jen, please? Thank you. And now moving into the enterprise flavor of Windows 365. And we are gonna take the same bottom line, right? So the Windows 365 Enterprise is meant for larger companies who want like unlimited seats for creating cloud PCs, right? It includes some options like customized images, right, that you create, but moreover, and this is important for you to know, you can leverage Microsoft Endpoint Manager to manage all your cloud PCs, right? And you can also leverage, and this is in regards to the previous question with regards to AVD, you can also leverage Azure Active Directory for identity and access control, right? Now, why will you choose enterprise versus business, right? And one of the key components is the ability to extend the connectivity across multiple resources in Azure, right? This means that with Windows 365 Enterprise, you're going to be able to access more resources or extend the connectivity to additional resources living in the cloud, such as if you have like domain controllers, access to other workloads in the cloud as well, right? And then again, you can have custom images in here, right? And one of the key highlights in here is that you will also be able to leverage the access to some services like the universal print, right? And in this context of a Windows 365 Enterprise, by default, cloud PCs are joined to your Enterprise Active Directory domain, and they are going to be synced to Azure AD as well. And then again, just to emphasize a bit in here, you can fully manage these cloud PCs through Microsoft Endpoint Manager.
Great, thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. So that's at a good level there between the differences between business and enterprise for Windows 365. Lindsay, do we have any questions specific to Windows 365?
We do. I see, let's see, one just popped up. Do I need a Windows device to connect to my cloud PC?
Hey, Lindsay, I'm happy to jump in on that one. No, you don't have to have a Windows device. As a matter of fact, any platform that you can install the Microsoft Remote Desktop app, so that's going to be Windows PCs, Mac PCs, iOS devices, Android devices, or even in any browser that supports HTML5.
Great. Another one here, will Microsoft Teams work with cloud PCs?
So to answer that one, yeah, absolutely. There are system-specific images for Teams optimization and Office optimization overall. So you can take advantage of your cloud PC and still make use of your webcam, your microphone, your speakers, and attend those meetings that we're all getting so used to.
Yes, the daily life. And then a third one here, can copy paste from a cloud PC to a local PC be restricted?
That's another yes, absolutely. That's just going to be a group policy option for your administrator, and they can disable that on a case-by-case basis.
All right. That appears to be all that is left for that. There was one other question around auto scaling from your previous section. I'm not sure if you want to take that now.
Let's take that at the end here. Let me keep going because I know we're we're getting tight on time a little bit. So I wanted to make sure we got to a few more pieces here. I wanted to talk about some common use cases that we're finding with many of our customers. A lot of the demand that's being generated around this new cloud PC capability, right? This is essentially, again, Windows 365 is that personalized cloud computer. In some scenarios where customers might already have a device deployed, they're also deploying a cloud PC. It's really helping some of the smaller businesses, again, from a simplicity perspective, just quickly deploy a device as needed in the cloud and make it accessible to that employee or contractor or whatever that workforce resource need is. There's a lot of demand there, and the agility of Windows 365 is really a priority for some of these companies that don't already have an IT shop or don't have expertise and maybe don't need the gigantic scale of that might be warranted in a large organization. Windows 365 is being used as a tool we're seeing for companies that as a lost device replacement. So in scenarios where people are carrying around a laptop and they need something quickly, that person can get back up and running, very fast with accessibility from, again, any device, as Chris mentioned earlier, to be back up and accessible to their files, accessible to their platforms, email, OneDrive, and a number of other solutions without too much downtime, right? It facilitates that cloud PC environment for a temporary workforce. We mentioned that earlier as well. It's perfect for businesses that have gone through an acquisition or a hybrid workforce that is really geo-dispersed, and could serve actually as a mechanism for businesses that aren't ready to give users a bunch of new devices out in the wild and ship it and handle all of the logistics that are involved with that. So there's also several customers that have prolonged older devices in their estate by being able to facilitate the cloud PC. Those are some things that are related to older laptop hardware. And again, they haven't had to go through the arduous task of doing a desktop refresh and just facilitated a cloud PC instead. So we're going to go through in a little bit of detail, Dave and I here, kind of the differences and the nuances, because there are nuances, the differences between AVD and Windows 365. And I would really bring it down to this, right? The Windows 365 is a personalized computing and dedicated perpetual environment. It's simple, it's turnkey, and it's license-based. Much like Office 365, you buy the license, you assign that license, and now that virtual PC is dedicated to that person. It's predictable per user per month pricing. Very easy to scale, and there's no VDI experience or skill needed to manage the environment. Whereas Azure Virtual Desktop, obviously, as it shares the same backplane, but it gives more flexibility and control to the IT group and ultimately to the business. That could be a regulation or a compliance control. It's also multi-session, so you can take advantage of deploying the same desktop with the same components and the same applications to hundreds, if not thousands, of users and employees. That multi-session, again, allows for rapid scale to deploy the same type of image to multiple people in multiple regions. It provides the data resiliency and geo requirements that many organizations need. It allows for even remote app streaming, where you're not maybe facilitating a full desktop or a cloud PC, you're only streaming the application to the user's local machine. And it also has a lot of scale, Azure Virtual Desktop, around GPU and hardware intensive workloads. I mentioned the DevOps and the software development use case earlier. Azure Virtual Desktop really does a great job there with scalable compute and storage, really to optimize. Again, it's going to be priced based on consumption, unlike Windows 365 that is priced per user, more predictable pricing. Azure Virtual Desktop will be priced based upon usage, based upon compute, and based upon storage, just like the rest of your Azure resources. So as it sits, right, Azure Virtual Desktop is very flexible. Really provides a lot of control, a lot of capability for IT to make decisions based on certain business requirements, based upon regulations, based upon certain needs of the organization, whereas Windows 365 is turnkey, easy to use, easy to get going, and personalized desktops, right? Azure Virtual Desktops is really optimized for flexibility of the business, whereas Windows 365 is optimized for simplicity. Keep it simple. Let the smaller businesses and the smaller companies take advantage of essentially a virtualized environment without needing all of the expertise and demand that potentially, a larger organization. And we have organizations as well that are taking advantage of both platforms, depending on the use case. We help you develop what that use case is, and we'll even help you choose the pros and cons between whether Azure Virtual Desktop is going to help you with greater scale, or do you need that simplicity to just quickly answer a specific need within your organization for rapid deployment of multiple personalized desktops. I did want to spend a moment just doing a quick plug. We do this work every day. We're talking to customers specifically around these use cases, these scenarios, and helping them to make decisions around whether it's Windows 365 or Azure Virtual Desktop. MDS has its advanced specialization in Microsoft Advanced Azure Virtual Desktop. That's a special indication from Microsoft that we had to go through a rigorous audit for. So it's not just gold partner status, it's actually an advanced specialization. And we have a methodology that we use to help clients discover again and assess what their plan is for leveraging these environments, leveraging use cases for hybrid work and use cases for specific compliance requirements. We work with healthcare, legal, and other industries around facilitating an environment like this that will, again, meet the need. And sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other, and sometimes it's a combination of both. And through this process that we've developed, we can bring a customer from really the concept all the way through proof of concept, through pilot, and then fully optimizing it for deployment across the organization, right? We provide not just a project delivery, but also the managed services that many businesses need to operate this platform or these platforms at scale. We can help fine-tune the auto scaling and the shutdown procedures and automatic updates and the resizing and performance tuning that go along with that perpetual optimizing of the environment after AVD or Windows 365 has been deployed. And so this hybrid work rapid deploy package and offering is something that we do, and we're very interested in having that conversation with you today. And thereafter. So please reach out if you have any questions around this. And then the last thing we'll do today is, again, open it back up as it is Ask the Experts for any additional questions around any of the three things that we talked about today: Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365 Business, and Windows 365 Enterprise. So Lindsay, any outstanding questions or any other ones that have come in?
We actually answered a couple in the background while you were talking. I'm not sure if you want to cover them. One was, how is the internet outbound traffic handled? Can I create custom restrictions? That one was answered with, you can use Azure Firewall application and network rules to configure that required access. This routes end user traffic directly to the internet for best performance. If you want to filter outbound user internet traffic by using an existing on-premises secure web gateway, you can configure web browsers or other applications running on the Azure Virtual Desktop host pool with an explicit proxy configuration. Other than that, I believe that was all the questions in the chat. So what I want to say is, everyone listening, if you do have other questions that come up or things you didn't feel comfortable asking in front of the group, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm going to drop our contact information in an announcement right here into the chat. You can also see it on the final screen here. We are happy to answer any questions you may have. As John did mention, this will be recorded, and I will send that out to the group, and it will be available on our website. Sorry to take over, John. Back to you.
No, that's fine. We thank you guys for your time today and appreciate it. Hopefully you found it beneficial, and we're here if you have any additional questions. So thank you again for your time.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.